Hello, this is day 34 of 365 days to racial change. My name is Tom Nyback, and welcome on this Sunday. We're going to get into just a day or two of an issue that Dr. Anderson talks about called social integration. And we'll get an introduction today, or we'll call it part one, and part two will maybe focus more on what blacks can be doing here in America, get it going. First, as always, I'd like to introduce him, Dr. Claude Anderson. He's a speaker and he's very intelligent. He's been part of presidential campaigns, Florida's education, things like that. And I was introduced to his work, and he's got a lot of videos on YouTube. I encourage you to go take a look at him. As always, I want to, just so you know, I'm not pulling stuff out of thin air. I'm influenced heavily by his work. His first book I read was A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor and White Wealth, very important book that will be coming out of here pretty heavily. And also Powernomics, his national plan to empower Black America. We'll be getting some resources from there for the next day or two. And we can't forget, we're going to have story time, take down maybe some of the seriousness of the subject. Harriet Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Very important work. It's interesting. Today I watch a lot of news shows, Chuck Todd, and Mr. Stephanopoulos and stuff like that. I think I just butchered his name. I apologize. But I watch those shows just to see what's going on in America, in the world, because I'm not very much plugged in, because it's all foolishness. People just need to get along, get together, and stop violating boundaries. This is what slavery, blackness, white power, entitlement, and things like that is all about. Oh, but not to get down that rabbit hole. But Harriet Beecher Stowe's work, Uncle Tom's Cabin, is important because even just today, there's a politician. I think he's in South Carolina, and apparently he's been involved with blackface in his past, and almost what you would consider recent past, because he does admit doing a Michael Jackson impersonation and covering themselves. But the more damaging photo came out of allegedly him in blackface alongside a hooded Ku Klux Klan member. Oh, I laugh, but these are serious, deadly issues, in America's past, and it's going to persist until proper reparations, acknowledgement, no more symbols of this white abuse that happened within America's borders. They need to share wealth and resources with black people. They got to admit they prevented black people from establishing great footholds and great communities. We're just now starting to get some footholds together, but we've had towns sacked. Our businesses have been sequestered and quarantined and crushed to the point, whites and other races don't play fair economically. So that's what we're going to get into about that. But her work is important because, blackface was actually, an entertainment form in the early days when her work was so influential in the mid-1800s, well into the early 1900s, I guess. I don't know the exact history of blackface. We're going to do a piece or a section on that, definitely. But, the point is two things. Anything can be comical or pejorative or damaging. Sometimes it's time specific. There's blackface was probably big in early days of theater because blacks were, you guessed it, illiterate generally, so they didn't participate, and they were already blacks are already marginalized and stigmatized and all this stuff. So, you want to get a theater, you want to get a show up and running, then you have to employ literate people because your medium is the written word. Therefore, if you're going to participate, you got to read. You can't have somebody dictating script to you. You're trying to get some things going there. So part of that, I see kind of the necessity of that. I will say, like, you got to be, but now, we're so sensitive now. And here's another thing that branches off into two sections. Now Americans have made blackface taboo, and it's pejorative, it's negative, it's what's like dropping an N bomb, but visibly, you know, and but kind of shame on America. America is deciding international world morality all over again. I'm really disgusted by that. Well, it condemns something, and then when it's profitable and politically correct, oh, it's right on. Take homosexuality as a big one, right? We've got a gay man running for president, openly gay, married, and all this stuff. I got no issues either way. I don't vote. I'm gonna vote when black people's votes matter. That's when I'll get into voting. Right now, it doesn't. We're a minority. People don't care, and we don't get, and we don't hold accountable politicians who we vote for anyway. That's another section. So, this blackface issue, and we're going to get into that as we go through Harriet Beecher Stowe's work. We just have it. We go into Uncle Tom's Cabin occasionally. But that's the source of that figure, that expression, that visual expression in America anyway. And other cultures have their marginalized groups. In America, it's a little different because there's a specific color line. But Japanese, I forget what it's called. They have their little marginalized group that do the bottom labor. There's classes. That's how the system works. It comes from raw materials, and they get processed, and smart people and business people know how to maximize and really draw those resources so it goes up and it crystallizes. That wealth and resource crystallizes at the top of the food chain, and then they spend money back down, and the consumers buy this stuff, and it cycles all over again to hard labor and manual labor folks and stuff. And on top of that backdrop is all of the ways that technology continues to encroach on that. We're not that far away from Star Wars, I think. So that's some of the background, what's happening today if you want to date the material. Also behind me, you'll see hashtag us2, hashtag USTOO, and you'll find that community. You'll also find blagenough.com, powernomics.com, Heritage Institute, and if you're interested in the economic angle, which we're approaching today and tomorrow, then Black Business School. You tell Dr. Boyce Watkins that Tomlin's Nyback said how he has no idea who I am. He knows me actually by another name. That's a fictional name that I like throwing that around. I like gimmicks and stuff like that. So that's anyway. Maybe once we'll see how the response goes, how membership grows with here, and maybe we'll get some stuff. Like to have some famous people on the show one day, huh? Wouldn't you like that? We'll see how the year goes. Okay, vertical integration is what we're after today. And the definitions, I put the definitions in your notes, and it's a paragraph here. I'm going to read it in total because it is the crux of some of the economic challenges facing Black America. So here's how Dr. Anderson puts it, vertical integration. And I don't know if that's an original term. I think some of this stuff is his terminology. I do that. I don't have anything off the top of my head right now, but we make our phrases to accommodate us, but I think it's an elegant way of describing this process. He writes, and this is Black Labor, White Wealth. In the concept of vertical integration, a single entity or group controls all aspects of the creation and sale of a service or product, including obtaining raw materials, processing, manufacturing, then distribution, marketing, selling the finished products. Through vertical integration, the group that controls raw resources and materials and markets can reap the profits without sharing its proceeds with middlemen and others outside the group. The group has the chance to take its profits, reinvest them in the business. Either way, it becomes stronger. Now, a lot of this is I've just gotten into investing, and that's the same idea. That's my stuff. I own these companies, and as profits come in to avoid taxes and some of the other stuff I'm still learning about, I reinvest that money. I keep it circulating so I grow financially. The same thing is done racially, socially. We see it all the time. Think about your groups of friends. How do you penetrate some communities? Take the gym, for instance. It's very exclusive. You got to hang around for a while. People got to see you off and get to know you and stuff like that. That's even a more friendly environment than this vertical integration we're talking about as far as businesses and economics. He goes into the Ford Motor Company franchise. He talks, any big, long-lasting company, you can expect that at the top, at the echelons of these companies, you're going to find people of similar race in there, and the occasional Asian, Hispanic, Black is going to be that outlier that has somehow climbed and made their way up the ranks. But he starts out with Ford and he mentions how they were exclusive in their management style. Now, this isn't exactly vertical integration, because vertical integration is about exclusively on a national scale and a racial scale, a profile. But Ford, they just have the control of the franchise as far as raw materials, processing, building the cars, selling the cars, and all that stuff, right? But they don't necessarily adhere to, and they were white, so they didn't have to. They didn't adhere to consciously and exclusively national plan about their cars and whatnot. But that's not quite Dr. Anderson's definition. What he notes, and from his observations, and now that my eyes are open reading his work, is that it's a intentional racial and national approach to this integration, and that having that sense makes them stronger, that it makes them gives them that focus, even though they have, their labor class and outclass and marginalized class, but they're Japanese, so even that class can has some expectations and certainty within its own national economic context there. Blacks don't have that. We're at the mercy and whim. We're consumers. We don't come together. We're not focused. We don't even talk nationally, about stuff. We don't. Do we care? I'm from New Jersey, but do I care what's going on in Compton? In California or south side of Chicago? black stuff like, do we communicate and interact that way nationally? I don't. And if there are um, blacks that do, please chime in so I can so we can connect. More than Facebook and a hashtag us too and things like that. You know, it's when we can make those bridges consistently. You know, um, uh, make a political party, have a black-owned business with a vertical integrated structure. Then I'm like, what? Yeah, where? Okay. But right now we're still piecemeal. Um, got a lot of colors in politics this upcoming 2020 election and stuff like that. But will we see? Will we see some real black movement? And there needs to be exclusive black movement. It's overdue. Black movement, black reparations, black anything. You know, I may have I've got some of my own personal, and I'm not afraid to admit my issues with blackness, but I am black. I, when I talk about black issues that I have, I know what the hell I'm talking about because I've experienced them. I've lived. I grew up this way. Okay, this is not paint. This is don't come all right, black. So I won't get too rough on that because this year is devoted to understanding the issues, how we got this way generally. Oh, there's plenty of outliers. We got athletes, entertainers, politicians, a lot of people. What Dr. Anderson, I'm going to have to do a piece on this. He calls the overclass. Those almost leaning towards Samboism. Those are some serious issues there about blacks arriving there at the top of the food chain, and you just don't really hear about them that much more. Very few, a minority. I'm actually surprised that Dr. Anderson has hollered back, hey, I needed that. Somebody up top that's been there internationally with presidents, things like that, hey, look out. Be aware of this. We just don't have blacks doing that. It just doesn't happen. So the Japanese, though, he gives a Japanese example. They give a better, that's closer to what he's after. That he gives the Ford illustration to talk about exclusivity, but now he goes and he gives later into the Japanese example. Now the Japanese, they got bombed back into the Stone Age. They're the race of people who survived atomic attack. This world, well, this world could be such a different place, But we got Holocaust here, slavery there, sex trafficking over here, atomic bombs. We got suicide bombs, and fighting this way, stealing. Oh boy. So anyway, you know, those are other issues, right? We need to focus. Got to start somewhere. Let's start with the black folks. So the Japanese, though, their plan, their economics is more national, and they had this even before. I imagine I shouldn't be so definite. They have it now, but they probably had it before World War II and the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, but their plan is a national plan. Now they got bombed back to the Stone Age and all that. One issue I have is that the Japanese, who are our enemies, not dismissing the illegal and oppressive internment camps in California and other places during that time. We had loyal Japanese Americans got jammed up in that. But Japan, that nation was our enemy, and we helped repair their economy, and internment camp prisoners were given reparations. Things that blacks haven't got. Hence, that's another issue that's outside vertical integration. But we can find numerous lists. I think I already did a piece on the groups that got some national uplift, got some reparations after we defeated them in a war. Though the blacks in this nation are a defeated nation in here, and we've not gotten even close to a fraction of what was owed to us, or access. Give us equal access. But that was denied. Okay. So, but the Japanese vertical integration is closer to the model that Dr. Anderson is trying to articulate to black folks. And it's a national plan. There's an allegiance, okay, to Japanese. Right downtown in my city, there's a mercantile. There's a couple around the city. And I'm walking there once, but I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. It's all in a different language. I'm sure it's all healthy because, it's not poison. People are still, buying and looking, But you don't see groups of Japanese at your local big chain white supermarket. Right? You see them at their little mercantiles and their Chinatowns, and then they go there, and there's probably better prices, better qualities outside of their circle, but they have an allegiance. The language, I'm sure, helps, but they're going to stick to their devotion to their people, and just support that greatness. I think on the one hand, they're not fooled by America's lip service about inclusiveness. America is very exclusive about its allegiances and where to allocate resources and whatnot. So they're not fooled by that. And also they're in competition. They're not at rest. They're not at peace here in America. They recognize that they're in competition, and that if they allow themselves to linger and ease up on their own ascent in America, then they're going to fall, and they might become so outed, and desperate as black folks. See, there's one thing about America. America's, in a sense, caught. White people made it all exclusive and stuff in the Constitution, and we've talked about that. Yet the law does allow ascension if people will come together as a group and come up. Look at the homosexuals. We got gay people running for president now. Anybody can run for president. We're showing that, boundaries, unrealistic, unethical, immoral boundaries need to be challenged and addressed. But you find, some outgroups get a piece of the pie. Blacks get symbols and lip service. Okay, big difference. Big difference. One thing you got to get this year is the difference between a tangible asset and lip service and symbols. That's why we got a white statue of Dr. Martin Luther King on the Washington Mall, carved by an Asian. Let's have. It's not a black offering. Did you get the difference? You got to get the difference of that. You know, what would blacks offer up on the mall? Yeah, maybe a statue. That's a good start, Dr. Martin Luther King. Um, but it'd be put and erected. You know, there's a lot of structures in Washington were built by blacks, but slaves, and not they weren't acknowledged, and they were not properly compensated. White men's names are on those buildings. Okay, so I mean, kind of get that. So I don't think it's that far of a mental leap, people. Please. So the Japanese have their national economic plan, Kuretsu. If I'm saying that right, I don't have a Japanese tongue or palate, so I probably missed it by a long shot. But it means closed loop. It circulates within raw materials, resources, processing, manufacturing, sales, distribution, and then they spend their money and make sure that their own group is healthy. That group then goes to work. You know, it's the same system anywhere, but it's exclusively Japanese that makes them powerful and prosperous. Okay. Now, my experience, you know, when I'm down the bottom, I'm labor class. And, you know, I wish I had my mind right. I was labor class, went through drug and alcohol thing, homelessness, and all this stuff. So I don't even register with black success in the community. And I'm cool with that because I'm moving in the right direction now. You got to start somewhere. But it's interesting as I try to breach and broach some of those exclusive black areas, you know, the blacks that have made it in economics, law, business, things like that. You know, I hit a brick wall. I do, right? You know, there is no kuretsu in the black community, not overall, not in general. It's not reached me. It's not reached some of the people I know on these drug corners and in rehabs and homeless shelters. Okay, you know, I'm down here, poor, broke, trying to do my little $5 a day investment plan or whatever. You know, but you know, when I reach out, try to get information, help, connection, try to, you know, integrate there with black folks. I'm getting these crazy figures, you know, $1,500 just to get in the door, $2,000 just to talk to you. I'm like, wow, dude, that's a year, boy. So I laugh about it. It's like, dude, what are y'all doing? You know? So that's my experience with Black Karatsu. You know, we got such a long way to go. So, you know, morally, nationally, our allegiance, you know, we're so divided and damaged. Dr. Anderson, he hints at this. He doesn't go big into it. And part of I get a little tongue tied because I don't want to offend, but you know, there's mental damage. There's two things that I've seen that I've two ideas that are growing out of this year-long project is two ideas. One is, you know, does the black slave mind still prevail? Is it still embedded? Is it possible to take a people group, indoctrinate them for a couple hundred years and have that mind run on autopilot, right? The black slave mind. And conversely, does the white idea of entitlement, privilege, unquestionable power prevail? They exercise that for a couple hundred years, and does that mind still? So those two things are actually one of the same coin two sides of the same coin. And also, black folks not playing together as a team the economic game in America. You know, we're always going to be like seen as outliers, but we're not going to be seen as a general serious force in America unless we come together and have some unity. Whites have it, and they just have it automatically. Asians practice it, Hispanics practice it, Arabs practice it. You know, there's a lot of reasons. You know, I'm out of time now, but think about that, black folks. We gotta do better. We gotta come together. And I have even my own issues, so I'm not saying it's automatic. You just don't walk into my life being a black person, and I'm going to have my allegiance to you. It goes both ways. So there's a lot to untangle there. Time, proximity, things like that need to happen for us. So that's part one. Part two tomorrow, I'm going to be focused more on blacks and talk about some issues around vertical integration on that way. So my name's Tomlin's Nyback. Thank you for your time again. This is 365 days towards racial change. Today was vertical integration. We'll see you tomorrow.